All right, come on in, sit down. We'll kick off in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'll set it on eBay and add the proceeds to the meetup. Which reminds me, I think 2 months ago, someone left a bag of dice, like D20s and D6s. Like, if it's your bag of dice, I have it at home. I forgot to bring it today, but let me know and I'll bring it next time. One more minute and we'll kick off. Alrighty, I think we are at 6:30. So welcome everybody to Cloud Native London. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was not screen sharing, but it's fine. We are a strong, open, diverse developer community based around cloud native technologies in London. I am your host for the evening. My name is Cheryl. You can find me online at oycheryl.com. I've been running this meetup for 8 years now. I think this is I actually know this because well, not exactly, but we are coming up very close to 10,000 members now. 9,600, something like that. So, the reason I know this number is I was looking at it and I was thinking the last year probably of this meetup, Cloud Native London has not been a very good name for this meetup because actually we don't really just talk about cloud native stuff anymore. Like, cloud and AI and data and other things. There's very little that is just like Kubernetes and containers. So, I may one day do a rebranding of it, but just to make it accurate to what this meetup actually is. So we do cloud native and also lots of other things. I know, but just put some AI in.
Cloud native plus AI or cloud native AI.
Yeah. But then it's like only cloud native AI, and that would be too much. It'd be like, needs to be like, yeah, cloud native with bonus AI, like enable AI on your meetup. Anyway, if anybody has any good ideas for new names, let me know. I am genuinely thinking about it. Anyway, tonight we have two fantastic speakers for you. The first one at 6:45 is Kasper. He's going to tell us about breaking free with open standards, OpenTelemetry and Perses for observability. Then at 7:15, Stu is going to talk to us about learn how to unify your DevOps. We're going to wrap up at 7:45 tonight and go to the Conductor pub afterwards, which is just straight out the front door, like on your left as you come out the front door. And I hope that we'll all stay and hang out and have another couple of drinks and continue chatting. Our sponsor for tonight is Cloudbees, but Stu is going to do his introduction as part of his talk, so we're just going to move on from this one. But thank you very much, Cloudbees, for sponsoring our pizza and drinks tonight. Yep. And now grab your phones, please, and you can use this QR link. We're going to do some live polling. I'm going to ask 2 questions about you and then 2 questions about how you use cloud native / cloud data, other things. You don't need to download anything. It will just take you to this web page. You don't need to put in a name. Okay. So, looks like people have already got this first one going. Is this your first time at Cloud Native London? So you should see a yes and a no. And looks like people have already figured out that if you press the yes and the no, you vote for each one. Looks like the no's are coming in strong, but always a good few number of people who are first timers as well. We're also live streaming to YouTube and to LinkedIn. So there are probably some people at home who are joining this as well. Looks like we might, yes, there's a sort of edging up to 50-50. Any more? Okay, we'll leave it there. Next question, what is your job title? So pick something that's closest to what you do. You have architect, application developer, backend developer, engineering manager, DevOps / platform engineer, security engineer, or anything else. If you do everything, I don't know, maybe it just evens out if it's everything. Is it actually, it's not one choice? Oh, wow. Okay. So you are truly full stack everything. Good for you. Looks like we have, DevOps and platform engineers are pulling ahead. Biggest number, a little smattering of everybody else tonight, which is nice. All right, wonderful. We're going to move on. What is your current experience with OpenTelemetry? I use it in production. I've experimented with it. I've heard of it, but haven't tried it yet. Or what's OpenTelemetry? Give people a couple of seconds. And what is pulling ahead? 50% saying I've heard of it, but haven't tried it yet. This question comes from Kasper, our first speaker. So is this what you expected? Is this surprising to you?
This is exactly what I hoped for.
Oh, okay. That's exactly what you hoped for. Yeah.
It's going to be nice because then it fits my talk if there's a few that heard of it but haven't tried it yet. So hopefully this will enable them to get started.
Nice. All right. So hopefully, some people will be inspired and actually start trying it after your talk today. And the 14% who say what's telemetry, you can find out about it too. Next question, how many CI tools do you use? Let's interpret this one broadly. So you have somewhere between none, 1, and more than 10. Give people to think about this one. Two to five's about 50%. A couple of people saying more than 10. So Stu, what were you expecting with this?
Well, funny enough, I'm not actually that surprised about the 5 to 10 and more than 10, because when I speak to people, there's such a hodgepodge of different CI tools out there that people are using. So not a surprise, not a surprise.
Ah, very good. See, when I saw this question, I thought, who's going to say more than 10? But actually, there's a couple of people. I want to see what your setup looks like, because that's going to be pretty interesting. All right, fantastic. Please keep these this open, because we're going to do Q&A with the speakers with this later as well. And I need a selfie for social media. So I'm going to take it from this side. Everyone get ready to smile and wave. And if you would like to join us on stage here or as a sponsor, the next speaking slots are from January. So you can always plan ahead, book a slot, and then decide what you want to talk about closer to the time. Go to Cloud Native London for more details about any of the above. And that is it. I am going to now hand over the stage. Please welcome Kasper.
Thank you so much. And this works perfect. And I see I have a little bit more time than I expected. So that's really good because I have a lot of content. So, and I have a live demo. Hopefully we'll see how that goes also with a handheld mic. That's always interesting. So so my talk is about OpenTelemetry and Perses. Hopefully that will help you break free with some of these open standards in your observability. I'm a developer advocate at Zero. I've been doing a lot of things in the cloud native space. I was one of the former co-chairs of KubeCon, Cloud Native Con. I ended my tenure here in London a couple of months ago. Also CNCF ambassador. I've been battling if some of you have taken some of the certificates on in the Linux Foundation, you know how horrible the platform is. So I've been battling that a little bit and finally reached the Golden Kubesonat as well. I'm an organizer of a Cloud Native meetup in Denmark as well, and across the Nordics. That is the Snowflake logo. It's Cloud Native Nordics. So that's a meetup alliance across the Nordic countries. So try to do a lot of things within the Cloud Native space. Just love being part of the community. So the TLDR for this talk is that OpenTelemetry is really about standardizing telemetry collection. Perses is standardizing dashboarding, and applying platform engineering principles transforms observability from an afterthought into a seamless, scalable, and developer-friendly experience. And then building on open standards allows you to freely move between vendors, ensuring that they stay on their toes and provide you the best possible experience. So that's what we will try and cover today. Observability today is still a little bit fragmented. We have metrics, logs, traces as these three pillars of observability, as many still call them. But the problem is that we don't really have a metrics problem or tracing problem. We have a systems problem, right? And all of this fragmentation leads to a lot of different problems. One of them being complex query languages. We have a query language for each of our different signals, which is quite annoying. As a developer, you just want to figure out what is wrong. Now you need to learn 3, 4 different query languages and figure out how to do all of that. You have vendor login in many cases. The old way of doing this was a lot of proprietary agents running in your infrastructure, SDKs. All of this was tied to this particular vendor, making it really, really hard for you to switch. And having these 3 different platforms also means that there might be some inconsistency in the metadata, which is, of course, making it even harder to correlate across the different platforms. And all of this complexity in many cases end up with no instrumentation at all. It's essentially flying blind, which is not good. And of course, yeah, lack of unified insight. So you're not able to correlate across these different signals. But luckily, there's a shift happening. And that shift is really about correlation. It's about how we are collecting these different signals like metrics, logs, and traces, and how we can find like related information and correlate them to the other different signals that we have. So if in the middle here you have jump between signals, you might see a metric threshold going off or an alert firing, and you want to be able to correlate that to a trace, and then essentially also from that go into the specific log line that tells you what is going on and what is failing at the moment. So it allows you to reconstruct the chain of events. And this shift is really sort of empowered by OpenTelemetry, which is a CNCF project. It's really designed to provide standardized tools and APIs for collecting and exporting telemetry. Traces, metrics, and logs, but also profiling and other things, also for the browser. It's becoming the de facto, or it is the de facto standard for distributed tracing, but also supports metrics and logs and profiling very soon. I think it's alpha, beta, or something like that with the eBPF profiling. So that is also coming, so you can actually be able to correlate to those signals as well. And the main goal of this project is really about unified telemetry, vendor neutrality, and then being cross-platform. It's a CNCF project in the incubation state at the moment. They have applied for graduation. Hopefully that will happen very, very soon. The PR is open. All of the stuff that needs to happen in order to graduate has been done. I think it's just the TOC that needs to do the last round of approvals, and then we'll see it graduate. So in a nutshell, it's really about providing a lot of different tools like the API specifications. There's conventions for how to name things, the different units called semantic conventions. There's libraries for many different languages, SDKs. There's an OpenTelemetry collector that allows you to collect your telemetry from, across all of these different signals and much more. I think today the OpenTelemetry project has around 80 different repositories within the GitHub organization. So there's a lot of things within this project. What it's not is that it's not proprietary. It's not an all-in-one observability solution. It's not a data storage or dashboarding solution. It doesn't have a query language. It's not a performance optimizer. It's not feature complete yet. So there's a lot of things it's not. What it is that it's really about collecting telemetry. And this was from the CNCF report from last year in terms of projects and how active they are. And you can see that OpenTelemetry is really up close to Kubernetes as one of the most active projects within the CNCF ecosystem. From a 1,000 miles view, this is more or less what it is. It's something with instrumentation. There's an API. There's some SDKs that allows you to instrument your applications. There is auto-instrumentation. I will show you some of that later. There's the collector part that is able to receive information from your different infrastructure, from Kubernetes, from whatever you have running. The collector can also process, export root data to different telemetry backends. So it can do a lot of different things. I'll show you some of them later. But what it really is about generating and emitting telemetry. It's about transmitting. It has this OTLP, which is the OpenTelemetry protocol for how to send telemetry data as well. And then the collector is about collecting, converting, processing, and exporting that into some backend somewhere. And this is really where sort of OpenTelemetry standardizes the collection part of your telemetry, meaning that you don't need another observability agent. You don't need any proprietary thing running in your cluster. It's all about being on the open standard, and then the vendors fight like further down the pipeline, in this case, around the storage, around how to analyze the data. Yeah, different signals. You hopefully know what a metric, log, and traces, and of course profiling is shortly coming, and also real user monitoring is also a thing that is part of the OpenTelemetry project as well. So telemetry without context is just data. And what do I mean by that? We'll try to explain it through this graph. So what are we looking at here? Any guesses on what this could be? CPU? CPU? CPU utilization? Could be a thing, yeah. And could be, yeah. Any other guesses? No? What this is, it's really about like how number of legs compared to how pretty, how awesome, adorable a thing is. So what you see is that the context really, really matters, right? You just saw a graph before, and now you got the context. So the context really, really, really matters. And when we sort of apply this to sort of the infrastructure and all the things we have running, there's many different levels of talking about the context. It could be the infrastructure, it could be which is of course, which data center is this running in? It could be the platform, which Kubernetes cluster is this running in? What namespace is this? What deployment is this, or is managing this thing? Which container is actually running this thing? What process? What is the runtime? What is the architecture? It's sort of the next level is the service name. How does it fit in with all the organizational context, which is on top? So there's a lot of different context around a thing that we are running, right? So context really, really matters. And in OpenTelemetry, we have this thing called resource attributes. There's multiple ways of getting access to the resource context. One of them being, you can do this, of course, manually by setting OTel resource attributes, and you can define your attributes. But a better way is to use like the resource detections. There's a lot of resource detectors for all kinds of different environments, such as, in this case, there's an environment detector, there's a process detector, an AWS ECS detector, Kubernetes detector. There's detectors for all kinds of different things that will go out and figure out what is the context around this thing that I'm running. That you can enable. And in many cases, in many of the different languages, all of this comes out of the box by default. You don't have to do anything, but you can control this if you like. Oh, and you can also add this, if you're sending your data to the OpenTelemetry collector, you can also add additional resource context there if you like. So OpenTelemetry without semantic conventions is just data. Skip this one, because what we had before was just like more high level, but semantic conventions add additional information on top of all of this and specifies what it is exactly we're talking about and how we're defining like a Kubernetes pod name or whatever it might be on all of these different levels. So the semantic conventions for cloud, the semantic conventions for Kubernetes, for operating systems, for all kinds of different things that is really the standard and we are sort of having the same language to discuss whatever this thing is, which is really, really good because we all agree that this is what it is. The only thing that is currently sort of missing is the organizational part, which is quite annoying because it's really nice to know who is responsible for whatever service is failing in production, right? There is some work being done in the OpenTelemetry Weaver project. It's a way where you can define your own semantic conventions, like internal organizational semantic conventions, which is quite interesting. So if you're interested, take a look at that. But we all have different internal ways of organizing the business and the organization. So that might be a solution because that is really the next level context that we are needing in terms of understanding how is this impacting the business in general and all of this. Yeah, semantic convention. So why OpenTelemetry? Well, as I showed you before, you need to instrument once and you can use it everywhere, meaning that this is actually the second point, is that we are separating the sort of the generation of from the analysis step so that you can solve the problem of collecting all of the different telemetry and you can send it and route it to whatever vendor you want to choose or multiple vendors. In this case, you can test out 5 vendors, compare their products and figure out what actually works for you. Also, OpenTelemetry makes software observable by default, meaning that many different open source libraries or libraries in general come with instrumentation by default, which is super nice. So now if you're in, I don't know, the Java world, you will out of the box get SQL, queries, all of this will be auto-instrumented for you. You don't have to do anything. You just need to instrument your application and you get all the data. And I'll show you that in the live demo, hopefully, we'll see. Oh, and the last part, it really improves how we use telemetry because we are actually now able to collect all the different signals, and because we are doing that, we're also able to correlate across the different signals, which is really, really powerful in understanding what is actually going on. So that's all great, but how do I make it easily accessible for my developers? Before we go into that, I also just briefly want to talk about, I saw on the poll before there was quite a lot of platform engineers in the room, which is really nice, because the role of a platform engineer today is in terms of observability is dual. You on one hand side you need to observe the infrastructure, which is usually around, I don't know, metrics, CPU usage, memory, stuff like that, and then maybe some logs from whatever project you're using to run a specific infrastructure. And then on the other side, you need to provide observability as this product for developers. And that is a little bit different because developers probably want traces, they want profiling, they want all kinds of things that you're not used to and maybe don't have the understanding. So there's this sort of conundrum in this space, which is a little bit interesting because you have this dual role. But hopefully, I will show you also how to make that easy for developers in the demo in a second. Also, there's different types of telemetry based on whatever you are sort of observing in the stack, right? On a bare metal machine, you probably only have maybe some system logs or something, and you have some metrics of what is happening. We have the virtualization layer, it's more or less the same. And as we go up, we get more and more signals, and we provide additional context to whatever it is we are running. So there's always these different kinds of considerations that needs to go into when you're designing sort of your platform as observability as a product in your organization. And platform engineering for observability, I usually use these 6 as sort of the principles of platform engineering: self-service experience, providing like developers easy access and self-service of whatever you're providing in the platform. Having explicit and consistent APIs, providing golden paths or paid paths, whatever we call them. provide some kind of modularity that you're still like allowed to go out in some way or the other. Build platform as a product. That is really one of the key things around platform engineering. And then in many cases, in many organizations, you're building in some core requirements of how your organization, what security defaults, whatever that might be. And if we apply that to observability, there's a lot of things you can do to actually sort of align with these. One of them in terms of self-service, that's auto-instrumentation or no-touch instrumentation, as I'll show you later. Semantic conventions is really about the explicit APIs. Golden paths is you build it in. Modularity can be provided out of the collector pipelines. Platform as a product, I think you should provide observability as a product in your organization, provide documentation to support all of the things that is needed. And the core requirements is, in this case, yeah, you need to be able to cross-signal correlation. But that's all great. But I ask again, how do I make it easily accessible for my developers? Well, the answer is auto-instrumentation plus operators equals no-touch instrumentation. And I will come back to show you what that means with a demo you can also try out yourself. But what I will show in this demo is that I will use the OpenTelemetry operator, which is really about making it easy for you as a platform engineer to provide your developers with this experience of they deploy a container and they will get automatically instrumentation out of the box without doing anything, not touching any of the code. And that is really sort of being done through this thing called an instrumentation resource. It's a Kubernetes CRD. There's also all kinds of other CRDs that I will not go into in the OpenTelemetry operator, but you can use it to run your collectors and all kinds of other things. But the instrumentation part is what I will focus on in the demo. So the instrumentation, it's really about instrumenting your application, whether you're running a Golang application. In this case, the OpenTelemetry operator is using eBPF underneath. It has some security concerns. There's a lot of things being done in the community to sort of handle this because you need to run the sidecar as root, which is not a really nice thing anywhere. But just keep that in mind if you want to use that. It can be used for Node, .NET, Ruby, Python, and Java, of course. And I will showcase that in a second. But what it really is that you provide this instrumentation resource, you add an annotation to your deployment saying, hey, I want to be auto-instrumentated or auto-instrumentation, and then it will just happen. But observability doesn't stop at instrumentation. We also have dashboarding. We need to visualize all the data that is coming in, and that is where Perses comes in. Perses is another cloud-native computing foundation project. It's a sandbox project, and the goal of the project is really about providing an open specification for dashboarding. And it also comes with an operator, which allows you to do dashboards as code, just like if you're familiar with the Prometheus operator, that allows you to do alerting with Prometheus rules as code. Now you can do dashboards as code through the Perses operator as well, which is quite nice. You can also use it to manage Perses itself. I'll show you that in a second also. And for the live demo, I think I will probably have good time to that. I will show you this. This is sort of the demo application I created. I have two different applications, one written in Go and one written in Java. It uses some databases. And we'll do the instrumentation with the OpenTelemetry operator. We will have the OpenTelemetry collector collecting all of the different telemetry coming in from these applications. We'll send metrics to Prometheus, traces to Jaeger, actually also sending logs to OpenSearch. In this case, I just don't have it on here. And I also have something that's not on here, a front end that I will show you in a second to make it a little bit easier. So now comes the interesting part of me trying to do a one-handed demo. But we have a cluster here. It's a Kine cluster that I have running locally on my machine. And I have a bunch of different things running. I have the OpenTelemetry collectors that are collecting the different telemetry. I have the operator running, which will handle the auto-instrumentation. You'll see that in a second. We have Prometheus somewhere up here for our metrics. We have Jaeger for our tracing storage. We have OpenSearch for logs. We have the different applications. And then we have our databases. And Perses, we'll come back to Perses in a second. So what we want to do is that, I have some, let me just see. think it's probably easier if I just do like this. So I have this Java application. As you can see, there's not much in this file, no specific instrumentation or anything like that. If we look at the controller, it's a REST controller. The thing to note here is that I'm not doing anything specific in terms of instrumenting telemetry or anything like that. There's no metrics or anything. It's just a simple REST API serving whatever I have in my database, creating to-dos, deleting to-dos. That's basically how it works. And I want to instrument this. I have the application running already. So what I can do is that I can create this instrumentation resource, as I showed you before. It's a kind instrumentation. You put it somewhere. In this case, I give it a name, instrumentation. I put it in the OpenTelemetry namespace. I tell it where my OpenTelemetry collector is running. In this case, it's OTel collector. It's also running in the OpenTelemetry namespace. I can do some specifics for the different languages if I want to. There's some specifics around Go that I needed to actually specify a specific tag because otherwise the latest doesn't work. But you can configure like the setup for the different languages in this file as well. So let me just apply this. Let me just do apply this one. And what we should see is that nothing really happens because this is an opt-in. So now the instrumentation resource is present. But in order to actually get my applications instrumented, I need to add an annotation to these two pods that I have running. So I can do edit. Let's take the Java one. Go down to the pod spec. We add annotation. And hopefully I have it here. Yes. So the annotation in this case, this is a Java application. I tell it to inject Java, and I'm pointing to the instrumentation resource that I just showed you before. And if I can figure out how to exit Vim. Let's see. So now you can actually see that the pod has been restarted. Let me just do like this instead. And now it started and now it's being instrumented. I will show you that in a second. Let me do the same for Go as well. Edit, deploy Go. For Go, it's a little bit different. Well, it's not different, but you need to add an additional annotation because you need to instruct the eBPF instrumentation to actually to specify which binary is running in the application in order for that to actually figure out and go and get the data. So that is what I'm doing on the second line, but otherwise it's the same. So what you will notice is that for the Go, we actually get a sidecar, which is the eBPF sidecar in this case. So let me see if I can find my application. As mentioned, I have this front end. And what it basically does, it interacts with the two services. Either I select my Go service or my Java service, and I can create these to-dos. So in this case, I will, I don't know, buy a beer or something. I can add the to-do, that's fine. Let's just do the same for the Go service, buy a beer. And now, hopefully, we should have an application that should be instrumented. So if we go into Jaeger and refresh, we can actually see that we actually now have some traces for the Java application. And as mentioned before, we actually get like the client side of the interaction with the database in this case. So you can see the insert statement into the database. You get all of this for free out of the box. You get the post, you get all of the interactions that are happening and as bands in this trace. Didn't do anything, didn't touch the code. I just added an annotation and now it works. That's pretty nice. We can see the same for the Go one. It's not like at the same maturity level in terms of what you get, but you still get like let me see, do we have we also have the insert statement and stuff like that here. So you get more or less the same with the eBPF auto instrumentation provided by the OpenTelemetry operator in this case. We also get metrics and logs floating into to Prometheus and an OpenSearch, and you can check this out. There's a repo with all of this code, so if you want to try this out yourself, I will have a QR code at the end, so you can play with it if you want to. Then I also wanted to showcase Perses. So Perses, the first thing around. Oh, I should have. That was okay. Now I applied it. Let me just show you the resource before that. So for Perses, you need to define a data source, a place where Perses can find the data. In this case, I want Perses to find metrics from Prometheus. So you define this Perses data source, and it points to the Prometheus instance that I'm running in my cluster. And that's where it sort of gets its data from. And then we can do JVM. Okay, let me just, let's just apply it and then go up, and now I can show you the Perses dashboard as well, because now we also want to see some metrics. So this is a Perses dashboard. So it's the custom resource that I showed you before. It's basically just a JVM dashboard written for this purpose. But it defines different panels, defines some charts, what it should be, how it should be visualized, the queries. It's just Prometheus queries to the Prometheus data source, as you saw before. And there's a bunch of different panels in this. And then you lay out sort of in a grid layout, you lay out the different panels, and then you design your dashboard in that way. You can do this either through this through the YAML here. You could also do it in the Perses servers and then just export it, which is probably a little bit easier than like designing this in YAML. It's hard to visualize how this actually ends up in the fully visualized dashboard. But let me just show you how it looks. We have Perses here. Let's try and refresh. We have a JVM metrics, and then we have a JVM dashboard with some metrics coming in from Prometheus in this case. It's really nice. It gives you this possibility of applying dashboards. You can store dashboards in your application repositories for the developers to have maybe Prometheus rules, dashboards, everything that is really related to that service in that repository that they are working in, the context they are developing things in. Which from a developer perspective is really, really nice to have everything. You don't have to context switch between different repositories. Yes, so let me find my slides. They must be here somewhere. There they are. So recapping a little bit, what you saw was that we had the OpenTelemetry operator running. We added the instrumentation resource. We added an annotation to the different applications in the pod spec, to tell it to inject Java, and then it just automatically injected that, and it sent the data to the collector, and from that routed it into Prometheus and Jaeger. And then we had the Perses operator that basically manages Perses, but also takes these two Perses dashboards and Perses data sources and visualizes the data in Perses. I hope more vendors, we at Dasero is using Perses as our default for specifying dashboards. I hope really that more vendors, I think Chronosphere is doing the same, and more is working on this, so that you at some point as a customer of an observability tool can take your dashboards to wherever you are. You can take your dashboards or your telemetry, because you're using the OpenTelemetry, now the dashboards as well, and hopefully Prometheus rules for your alerting and all of that. Basing everything on open standards really gives you sort of the flexibility to select and choose whatever fits your organization. So observability is evolving fast. And I think OpenTelemetry is really standardizing telemetry collection. You don't need any of these proprietary solutions anymore. Switch to OpenTelemetry and you can route your data to wherever. You can test out the different vendors, figure out what makes sense for you. It's really nice to see like how is the different vendors presenting my data and what kind of options do they give me? And yeah, what fits the organization that I have running? Then Perses is hopefully, it's not really there yet, but Perses will hopefully standardize dashboarding as well. I think there's a great community around Perses, and I think it's a really, really good project, good for the community, good for you as end users to really rally around this standard instead of having proprietary dashboards everywhere. So you need to copy your 15,000 Grafana dashboards or whatever to another solution. And applying platform engineering principles can really transform like observability from this afterthought into a seamless, scalable, and developer-friendly experience by using some of these tools that I just showed you. And again, observability is not a systems problem. Oh, it is a systems problem. It's not a metrics tracing or logging problem. And when we connect these signals together, we empower developers to solve problems faster. Basically, it makes it a lot easier to correlate and dive deep into what is actually going on. And hopefully also by having something like the semantic conventions, the power to correlate across, and now AI is also going to be a really powerful thing because there's so much potential in handing an LLM all the semantic conventions. It understands what the different metrics are, and it should be able to, in that case, figure out what is going on really, really fast. So there's a lot of development in that space as well. We also there, but I will not talk too much about that. And last but not least, building on open standards allows you to freely move between vendors, as I talked about, and it really ensures that we as vendors stay on our toes to provide you the best possible experience. Shameless plug, this is open source. If you are using an OpenTelemetry collector, OTelBin is a really, really nice tool for you to validate your configuration and basically visualize it. You can also validate against the different distributions of OpenTelemetry collector, which, if you're not familiar, there's a few different distributions. At least when I started, I had some issues figuring out why is this receiver not working? Why is it complaining? Apparently that was a distribution and it was missing in that distribution. So it's really nice to have a tool where you can actually validate a configuration against a specific distribution and then get it visualized as well. And with that, this is the QR code for the demo. If you want to try it out yourself, it should be very easy to get up and running, have a kind cluster locally, and then just apply. There should be plenty of guidance to how to get up and running. And with that, I think I'm okay on time. Thank you so much.
Stay on. I think we've got a couple of minutes for questions. Let me take over this. So no questions yet, but feel free to type questions, or we can also use the orange cube. Anybody for questions? Ready to catch? Cool.
Yeah. What is the difference?
You have to talk into the top.
What is the difference between OpenTelemetry, OpenTracy? OpenTracy is just the tracker, something like that, and then the OpenSense. Yeah. What's the difference? And
yeah. So
I should take.
Yeah. So back in I think 2019 or something like that, OpenTracing and OpenSenses merged. So the two projects were independent projects, and then they merged into OpenTelemetry to really standardize on how to do things. So it's a merger between OpenTracing and OpenSenses.
So both of just not like my product from the catch system, on the gaming, it should be both used before. Just like my product for the catch system. From that, it should be usable OpenTelemetry and use that both for the catch system for the gaming.
I don't think I understand, but you should be able to migrate from OpenTracing into OpenTelemetry. Yes.
Okay.
Because OpenTracing is, I think, it's more or less dedicated to that.
It has something about the log and then implementation, just like permissive and governor. Some that's tools. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. All right, we've got some questions here. So how good is OTel as an SNMP trapped receiver with large volumes of logs?
Oh, that's a question I don't know much about, unfortunately. But if you want an answer to that, come talk to me, and I can ask my internal experts on that. I don't have the information, unfortunately.
Okay, one more. Are you creating any custom receivers? If so, can you share some guidance on creating?
We are not creating any custom receivers. There's like a ton of different receivers out there. I'm not sure what the use case in this case is. If you are, you must be here in the room, or maybe you could be online. I don't know. Come talk to me afterwards. I haven't tried to create a receiver. I just know that the country repository at least has like a ton of different receivers that you can use for anything. Basically, I don't know how many there are, but that's a lot.
All right. I think we are very much just about on time. So another round of applause, please, for Kasper. Okay, now over to Stu.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hey, we're in business. Good stuff. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. I've been to this event a couple of times to listen in, and so I've never had the opportunity to speak. So it's a real pleasure to be here tonight. Start off with, as you mentioned earlier on about CloudBees. Quick show of hands. Does anybody know of CloudBees? Yeah, cool. Anybody use CloudBees? Oh, one, maybe. Okay. We'll go into a little bit more detail, but let's quickly show me. There you go. So about me, I'm Stu Brown. I'm a sales engineer working for CloudBees. Obviously, that's why I'm here. I've worked for the company for about 8 years. My background was initially in banking. I actually worked for HSBC for 18 years and brought CloudBees into HSBC. Cut a very, very, very long story short. I left HSBC. Well, they let me go eventually after 18 years. And then I joined CloudBees, which I'm now been working for 8 years. So I'm very, very happy there. A little bit of background about what CloudBees is. Fair few years ago now, people are aware of Jenkins, right? Okay. The Jenkins project originally was the guy who invented Jenkins was Kasuke Kawanachi, or KK as we call him. He just says call him KK. He was our original CTO. Okay, and he joined or created CloudBees with two of the other founders, guy Sasha and Francois. And the idea was they wanted to build on the great work that's happened with Jenkins, work with the open source community, but build an enterprise version. Okay, so we're going to give functionality. We're going to deal with security vulnerabilities. We know with Jenkins, right? Best thing about Jenkins, all those plugins. Worst thing about Jenkins, all of those plugins. They can be an absolute pain in you know what. So anyway, what they did, they built an enterprise version. It's built on top of the open source community, but we still commit 80% of the commits to the open source community. So we embrace Jenkins. So KK was our CTO. They we still embrace cloud-based CI, the enterprise version of Jenkins. It's our baby. The company's unofficially known as the Enterprise Jenkins Company. But what we've done in addition to that, we've listened to feedback. So we've increased our product portfolio. We've now got, for example, feature management. Yes, we've heard of feature toggling. Yeah, we've got a feature management product that's integrated with our platform, which we're going to show you a little bit later. We've got an AI testing automation system that we'll talk about a little bit more as well. We've got release orchestration. So basically what we've done is we've built on the success of what we've had with CI. So what we're going to talk about today, though, is a new platform, which we're going to come to shortly. So this is our statement. So what we're trying to do, we're constantly working with our customers. Yeah, you can see what the vision is. It's basically empower developers. I think a lot of companies really forget when they go in what the developer wants. We're trying to make things seamless. Yeah, we're trying to make their life a lot easier. And that's basically what our mission statement is. These are some of the customers, as you can see, HSBC sitting at the top. We won't go too much on that. But basically, one of the main reasons I'm here tonight is to talk about Cloud-based Unify. Now, Unify is a SaaS platform. It's something that our customers have been asking for many years. In fact, going back originally when we set up Cloud-based, we actually provided a SaaS version of Jenkins or Enterprise Jenkins. We stopped actually providing that in the end because we felt the majority of our customers actually wanted to install on-prem. Things have moved on with public cloud and things like that. We support containerization. In fact, we recommend it. But everybody keeps going back to, well, I want a SaaS solution. Okay, we can do that. But the problem is, I'm a solutions architect now, so I work kind of pre-sales, but I've also worked with services. And one of the challenges we've always had is somebody has invested a lot of time in the work that they've already got. If they're using Jenkins, for example, if they're using any CI system, they've invested a huge amount of time on to say, let's just shift you over to this shiny new product. It just doesn't work. Okay, and we've learned from experience that's not how you do it. It's got to be hybrid to start. We've got to prove things. We've got to make sure we're not disrupting the developer. So that's what we're aiming to do with Unify. So these are the core pillars of what we're trying to do. So we're trying to make things open and flexible. You'll notice in a moment we're going to be talking about the CI engines themselves. So you might be talking about Jenkins open source. You might be hopefully talking about Cloud-based CI. That's obviously why we're here. But we're also talking about GitHub Actions, yeah? Really popular, yeah? Well, obviously, a competitor, isn't it? But we're supporting it. We're embracing it because we know that if someone's using a mixture of CI engines, let's embrace it. Let's make life easier for them. If you make the tool attractive, the developers will come. Well, that's the idea anyway. The center one, continuous security. I've spent so much time over the last few years having conversations with companies about security and scanning. A few years ago, excuse me a second, I'll lose my voice. A few years ago, I didn't really see a great deal of scanning going on. Now I'm seeing huge amounts. We've got scanners running in pipelines left, right, and center. Everybody does huge amounts of data coming in, but none of that data is connected. And that's a big issue, especially now with compliance and regulations and things like this. You're literally getting swamped with information. Your release cadence to get software out into the market, well, that's a big problem because you're now, even if you're developing code quickly, you're testing code quickly. You've then got to a stage of, can I actually go live? I've got all this data, but I've got to review it. We can automate that. But if you just go and automate it by putting points within your workflows, for example, that means every single team's got to go and do that. That's a problem as well, because I've been on the other end of this. Teams want the ability to be able to do things their own particular way, okay? But then that's also against the fact that the company says, I want a unified look at or a view of how all the security holds together. So this is what we're going to try and deal with. The last point, well, who would do a presentation without mentioning AI? Obviously, that's what I'm going to be mentioning later on. It's the hot topic, isn't it? So obviously, we're going to support that. Okay, so this is what Unify a very, very high level looks like. So we've got build, test, deploy, and secure. Build. The survey I saw earlier on, and when I smiled when I saw, how many CI tools have you got? All right, 10 might be a bit extreme. Okay, fair enough. But 4 or 5, that's not extreme. It's constantly what I see. People have got CI tools because that's what they fancy at the moment, or CI tools because it works for me. I'm delivering, I'm trying to be productive and delivering change. I haven't got time to change the CI tool. Fine. Let's embrace what you've got. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're going to try with build to embrace that. If you look down the bottom, and this applies for every box, we've got Jenkins, it's a cloud-based CI as well. So you can use your own CI tool. It can be on-prem, it can be in the public cloud. Okay, we'll embrace that. You've got Tekton. Now, specifically put Tekton there. It's actually called cloud-based actions. So it's very similar to what you'd see with GitHub Actions. The DSL looks remarkably similar, but extended. Because as people know GitHub Actions, why learn another DSL? Okay, let's embrace what's there. So the reason I put Tekton is that's the engine under the covers that that cloud-based actions uses. That's basically what we've developed it on. GitHub, I've already mentioned GitHub Actions. Even if you've got a workflow running in GitHub Actions, Unify can connect to that workflow and we can bring information in, including security scanning, which we'll see when I show the demo. By the way, I'm going to put my hands up here and say, I'm not brave enough to do a live demo. I've recorded it because, yeah, it's never a good idea. And also, as you realize, typing with one hand is never a good move. It did very well though, by the way. Okay, so moving across, we've got test. Okay, test, optimization, and triage. That's what I was talking earlier on about what we refer to as smart tests. Okay, we'll show a little bit more about that, but it means that whatever tool you're using, Unify can look at those test results and help you with those test results. Okay. Deployment, release orchestration. Yes, Unify will allow you also in your pipeline to interact with GitHub Actions, cloud-based CI, Jenkins, but do the release via Unify. We're embracing what's already there. And then the final one, secure. This is one close to my heart. As I mentioned, I spent so much time talking to customers about dealing with their security requirements, okay? Security is always on with Unify. It's constantly checking. If we do a commit, it's retrospectively checking, are there any security vulnerabilities on the code base that I'm about to deploy? So if I built an artifact from a commit and a version, I'm registering that artifact, and then I'm registering that artifact whether it's to be deployed to an environment, which we'll see in a minute. But it's really important. I think out of everything, the security being always on is such a big win, and it's something that we've been constantly asked for. Final one, bring your own CI. Well, this is what we're supporting at the moment. But if someone comes to us and says, we want to support XYZ, yeah, we'll build it. We're not going to build it until someone wants it. But this was released a couple of months ago. Okay? Rightio. So, as you can see here, visualizations, kind of what you would expect to see, I suppose. What you can see here is we have actions that are already available within the Unify product. Okay, so this is a workflow. As you can see here, these are the actions that are available. But I can go and easily create my own custom action. Last week, I had a customer wanted to use Argo CD to be able to do their actual deployment, to be able to sync to that. We hadn't built that yet. So half a day's development, I create an action that now allows them to sync that information. So we're bringing the tools you've already got, yeah? If after a while you say, well, actually, I don't need to use Argo CD because I can do this directly within Unify, then switch over. But once again, it's not big bang, And that's always the challenge, right? Okay. These are the insights as well. So these are metrics that you get out of the box. I'll show you in the demo later, but we can see flow metrics, DORA metrics, software delivery. Sorry, I'm reading a screen. You should never do that. But security and test insights. You can see here, we have a standard data model within Unify. All the information that's being ingested into Unify, we can put metadata on. This is happening automatically. Okay, so I'm getting this literally out of the box. If I connect to a repository that has, for example, a GitHub Actions workflow in it, then we'll scan that repository, but I don't have to make a change to that repository. I don't have to go and change my workflow to say, run this scanner. We're doing it. What we're doing is we're running with a set of open source scanners that you can use. In addition to that, if you want to bring your own scanners, we can configure them as well. But we're using the best of breed open source scanners behind the covers. And you can configure that, which ones you actually want to use. Okay. Security and compliance. So I can see here, we'll see this in the demo in a moment. I scan the repository and then I'm seeing a security summary. Yeah, findings by severity. I get an SBOM created automatically for me. I've made no change to the repository. This is happening automatically under the covers. And this is the smart test, which we mentioned earlier on. Also got a demo in a moment, recorded, just to add that. You can see here, what we're looking at is, I don't know if you've been in a situation where in the morning, you've run some overnight tests, and then you've got a couple of hundred test failures in the morning. That takes a lot of time to try and triage to work out, well, what's caused these couple of hundred test failures? It could be down to 3 code changes, yeah? What we do with smart tests is we can triage that and then point you to say, look, we found these 100 issues, yeah, but they're actually against these 3 items. So it saves you a huge amount of time and trouble trying to analyze that. We can also optimize your test runs as well. So we can turn around and say, you've got 1,000 tests, but I'm only changing a little bit of my code, certain area. Well, we've got a model in the background that's checking every commit against tests that you've run. And then we're recording those tests to say what actually ran, what's more likely to fail. So then what we can do subsequently, once that model's been built and matured, you can send a set of tests into Smart Test and say, well, this is the commit that I'm about to test. These are the 1,000 tests. What ones should I run? And we'll order those tests in the correct order. And we'll also say to you, well, if you want a 95% confidence that running these tests, you're going to catch everything, then we set it to 95% confidence. Okay. So you work out what your appetite for risk is. Okay. So really, really clever bit of kit. So this is just a screenshot. The next one will actually move, I promise. As you can see, this is the welcome screen. Everything can be done in code, obviously. Yeah, you're going to look at your workflows once you get used to things, and that's where you're going to be wanting to making your changes. We've got some quick starts, wizards to set how you can connect to repositories. On the left-hand side, just one thing that I haven't mentioned so far is with regard to the Jenkins management. I can actually go into to look at the Jenkins controllers I've got running and can see what's actually happening within Unify if I want to. It's useful if you want a single pane of glass. The other very useful option here is you'll notice where it says Cloud Early Access. That's an organization. So if you've got a big organization, you can set a hierarchy so you can set your view to what makes sense for you. If you're a development team, you go into where you want to look. If you're higher up the organization, as in the boss at the top, he can see exactly what's happening across the organization. So you can set your view to what makes sense to you. Okay, and we'll just show you that, hopefully, in the next slide, if it'll work. Say a lightweight, I recorded it. There you go. So that's the organization. As you can see, we've got Cloud Bees. Yeah. These components underneath. So if we look at this here, that is a repository. So a component really maps to a repository that's in my particular case, I'm using GitHub, but it doesn't have to be GitHub. Okay. As you can see there as well, I can look at a component, and as I look at a component, I can see a summary of that. I can see how many workflows, I can see a security summary. Yeah. So I can see from there literally just an overview of what's actually happening. But if we go into more detail, how do I create a component? It's really simple. I'll go in here and I'll choose the organization I want. So I've just called it Bravo because I've got no imagination. I'm going to go and say create a component. So I've already connected my organization. That's another piece of configuration. But if I go create component and then I search for available repositories that I can use. So I've got, what is it? Hackers Source, Stu4 and Stu4 GHO. Okay, so that's two repositories repositories I'm going to now add as a component. Now, as that happens, immediately in the background, Unify is doing its stuff. Okay, what it's actually doing, it's saying, right, I've now got access to some source code. I'm going to run my scanners. Okay, so you can see here now, Hackers Source 4, that's my component. It's noticed I've got some workflows attached to it. Okay, and it's also found some security vulnerabilities. I've sped this up a little bit. It takes 10, 15 seconds for this to run, but for the sake of boredom, that's why I've moved it forwards. So I can see there, if we look at the workflow runs, come on. Oh, please come up, please, please. Yes, that's good. Okay. So I can now see that same component. If you notice there, that says implicit code scan. That has, we've got no notification of that or no configuration within the repository. But what it's doing, it's going through a set of scanners. Okay. Those scanners, I've decided what can run. I can now see from the security overview, after I've run those scanners, I've got some, you see, I've got some open findings. There you go. So obviously I've only got a couple here, but obviously when you first go and scan a repository, you're likely to find a lot. But if I look at the security center, I've only found one, but I've found something that's a high severity. What's this one going to be? I think you're going to find, let's look at the details. This is going to be because we found an API key. Yeah, now something nice and simple. Someone's put an API key within their repo. Obviously, we don't want that. But I can triage that to say a fix is required, it's a false positive, or I'm accepting the risk. If I was to choose risk accepted or a false positive, someone else has to approve that. Or I can put a time limit on to say, look, we need to fix that within the next month or so. So as you can see there, now I'm still looking at this is the Hackers Stu4 GitHub only. I've named it like that because what I'm trying to say is there's no workflow in it. It's got a GitHub workflow and that's it, nothing else, but I'm still seeing the summary, okay? And once again, we've got that implicit code scan. We mentioned earlier on about the DSL. Why reinvent the wheel? We've enhanced it. It's a GitHub DSL with some basically on steroids. So if we look here, we can split the view. Fair enough, you've seen that kind of thing before. I would normally be doing a lot of this via in GitHub directly, but it's nice to spec things out. And while you're getting used to things, you'll see here, I can go in and those steps I can do via the UI. But we're adding metadata constantly. So you can see this is a scan step. So I've added metadata for scan. So now when this runs, the model is getting the fact that, okay, where am I going to store? Well, I know where I'm going to store the information, but where am I going to present it? So I'm going to present that. I'm going to do the calculations and I'm going to create the analytics because this is a scan. Okay. It's a very basic way of doing this, but as I say, you can get very weird and wonderful options with this. Making a quick change there. In fact, I'm just getting rid of some old lines. I can do a commit here. There you go. Tidy up. And I could go and commit this directly from my workflow. Obviously, there's webhooks set up within the repo itself, as you'd expect. And the majority of people, once this is running, they're not necessarily going to be looking in here if they're a developer. They might want to go and look at their security posture. But really and truly, we only want to know when something's gone wrong. Yeah. So, okay. So that's running again. It'll run the workflow. But as well as running the workflow, it's going to run another explicit scan. So it's going to run to make sure, well, I've done that, but does my security still run correctly? Yeah. Have I found any other issues? Okay. One thing to bear in mind as well, security always on. We're scanning now, but we're also scanning real time as well. So if something changes, because let's be honest, I can be at, what is it, 7:30? What was it? Oh, there you go. 20 to 8 on a Wednesday. By tomorrow, we could have another CVE, couldn't we? Yeah. So what we're doing in the background, we're scanning again. So if something happens and the posture changes, then we know about it. Because there's no point in just putting something in production and going, it's fine, it was okay, if tomorrow something then comes out. So you can do this retrospectively and find out exactly what the problem is. Okay. Okay, we've got a test there. This is a workflow. I've put in my workflow, I've got some evidence, so I can put here my test coverage. This is already in the model, but I've decided there I'm going to put a link so people can easily see what's going on. Okay. I'm building a container. God, dear, oh dear. I left this for a long time, didn't I? Well, I'm building a container, and in a minute it's going to show. There you go. Oh, there you go, Stu. I'm glad you actually did that. I've decided here that I'm going to run another scanner. Now, I've got my inbuilt scanners, the ones that came directly with this. But say I want to run another scanner, and I explicitly want to put that in my workflow. I can do that, but I can send the results of that scan back to the model. Okay, so the good thing is people don't need to worry about this, but if they want to enhance it, they can. So my scan results now will go directly back into the model. And that means that I can report on it. How long does it take to build a container? There you go, at last. Thank God for that. Okay, so the container's built. What's going to happen there is because I've got a container, I've got a reference to something. So I can register that artifact within Unify. If I've registered the artifact within Unify, I've got a link back to the commit. I've registered it in Unify. I'm now going to deploy it to an environment. So you can see it says deploy pre-prod. That has now been registered. So I know I've got traceability all the way through. And remember, I've not really had to do much in my workflow. And finally, we've got an approve step because I've decided that if it's going to production, I want someone to go and approve it. Do you want people manually improving things? Probably not necessarily, but you can. But why not just replace the step with a call to a change management system? Okay, but it gives you flexibility. So that's now going to go and deploy to production in its own time. See, if I actually did this live, I could have clicked to another page and pretend it's happening behind the scenes, but it's going to do it. It's going to finish. There you go. It's finishing. So as you can see, very, very simple workflow, but the information I'm getting from that workflow is back in the model again. So I'm getting a lot of this for free. Right, nearly there, nearly there. Analytics. So I'm seeing my commit trends, pull request trends, code churn. I can see how many commits the developer's doing. I'm never sure if that's a good idea or necessary, but hey, I can see it. Okay. So I can see security insights. So what we looked at earlier on, I've only got 2 minutes, so I'm going to speak quickly. What we saw earlier on, I've got more extended dashboards here. And I'm also looking at a higher level now. I'm actually looking at Cloud B's platform, Unify, this is actually unified. We use this ourselves, okay? So as you can see, I'm seeing lots of information from there. Okay, let's go to the next one. Smart tests. We spoke about this earlier on. I've got my builds. So if I click on builds, you'll notice a build ran, and then there was tests. A test session ran against those builds. So if I click on test session, I mentioned earlier on, we've got 18 failed tests. We might have 18 failed tests, but there's only 3 issues associated with it. Yeah, so if we look at issues there, they're the issues. And if I click at the top, I get a better view of it, which hopefully I'm going to do in 2 seconds. There you go, come on. There you go. So we've got a new issue. We've got one ongoing, in other words, being looked at, and we've got one that's been resolved. So it's everything's being linked back once again to the model, so we can report on it. And then finally, and I think hopefully I'm going to be on time. Yeah, of course. Got an MCP server. I've seen people do this before and show prompt after prompt after prompt. It's an MCP server. It does exactly what you would expect it to do. It pulls any information you want from the unified model, and we can interact both ways. Okay, so you can see there, I'm asking for a list of the high vulnerabilities in a particular repo and display it nicely in my session so I can see exactly what's going on and make it fit. So we're going to get a table in 2 seconds, hopefully. There you go. So there you go. So that is a very, very quick overview of what Unify does. There you go. Am I on time? Yes. There you go. No.
I think we are just at about time. Apologies. I think we're out of time for questions, but Stu, you'll be in the pub later. Excellent. If you have any further questions, then yeah, grab Stu.
And there is a trial you can go on.
Thank you so much. Okay, that is it for us this evening. So if you would like to continue chatting, please go downstairs to the Conductor Pub where we'll be hanging out. Please return these key fobs on your way out. Otherwise, I will see you the first Wednesday of every month. So next month. Have a great evening. Thank you.